the Murray River, the Coorong and Goolwa. Places that stir up the emotions of the Storm Boy Pelican story from Colin Thiele, and stir up the hearts of those who love wildlife, the ocean and the incredible outdoors. I'm Alison, and this is Graham, and together we explore this world for pet and vet adventures. Come along on this Fleurus Peninsula road trip and help us test out the capacity of our rental cars. Our weekend getaway takes us south from Adelaide towards the historic village of Goolwa, gateway to the Coorong National Park, on to the Pelican nesting site at Jack's Point, and then inland to Murray Bridge for a paddle boat adventure. Our first port of call is windswept Hallett's Cove. We can taste the salt in the air and hear the roar of the St Vincent's Gulf surf crashing on the rocky shore while seagulls wheel overhead. We highly recommend the Boatshed Café for brunch, hot coffee, eggs Benedict, and a view over the ocean and the Hallett's Cove boardwalk. Hold on to your hats, the wind and the view is exhilarating today. Our drive south winds through classic South Australian landscapes. Gum trees lining the road and time-worn stone cottages standing proud against sunburned hills. A stop at Rapid Bay allows us to explore the sun-baked beach. Rock art standing testimony to previous visitors. Pebbly sand crunching beneath our feet as we wander to the cave at the northern end of the beach. We marvel at the towering limestone cliffs sculpted by wind and time, which, along with the ocean swells, created an impressive cave that is begging us to explore. The cave is accessible by foot at low tide and opens into a cool, shady chamber, echoing with the sounds of the ocean. It's not a deep cave, but its size and acoustics are impressive, and it makes a perfect spot for a photo or a moment of quiet wonder. As we make our way back at the high tide mark, Graham finds some interesting objects. What do you think these are? We'll find out later in the video. Graham spots another curious creature in the debris and bah! It's plastic. Not good for the ocean inhabitants, which include the incredible leafy sea dragons that people come to encounter while snorkeling this incredible coastline. The road leads on to Victor Harbour, where we follow the old causeway tramlines to Granite Island. home to a penguin colony where we marvelled at the wind-sculpted rocks before staying a night, ready for our Goolwa adventure the next day. We joined the Spirit of the Coorong tour, Graham introducing himself as Mr. Percival. Oops, no, Mr. Pickering. Captain Joel takes the helm and shares the Coorong story.
So we're just departing from the main wharf of Goolwa here.
We pass under the Hindmarsh Island Bridge for a quick peek at Lake Alexandrina before turning and making our way towards the Goolwa Barrage.
So the bird life is just really epic here, and it's great to then have fur seals on top. Occasionally we get dolphins coming through the Coorong. It is just a beautiful location right by the sea and this estuary and wetlands. It's incredible. It's an amazing place.
The barrage separates the fresh water of the mighty Murray River from the salty Southern Ocean, maintaining the fresh water supply during times of low river flow. Our vessel passes through by a means of a lock system which equilibrates the water levels, supervised by many pelicans and lazy sunbathing seals, who do not seem fazed by our presence. And a few onlookers checking out the action from the Hindmarsh Island side. The lock is only just wide enough for the boat to squeeze through. Pretty much every river, creek and stream west of the Great Dividing Range flows down into the Murray-Darling Basin. All of these rivers and creeks flow into the River Murray and culminate down here at the Southern Ocean through the Murray mouth. Joel shared a tale of fishermen wading in the surf here, tying their catch to their belts as they fished, and only to discover when they returned to shore, all but the heads of their catch had been consumed by sharks.
If the Murray mouth was to close over, water that would be trapped would be stagnant, and algae is a massive issue. Fish, plants can't grow in that water. It's 3, 4, 5 times saltier than the sea.
We continue up the Coorong past wind-swept dunes.
That's because I grew up with it as a child. Again, reading the book by Colin Thiele. And when you read Colin Thiele's words, it just, the visceral image that you get from reading the words is just, it's just home, just the windswept tussocks, the grass, the way he describes it. Pretty iconic for Australians, and particularly South Australians.
Doing a tour on the Murray River. Well, actually the estuary where it actually goes into the Southern Ocean. So it's, yeah, I'd highly recommend this as well worth. And we're actually just now beached, there's a boat. So we're just beached here, but we're about to do a 750 metre to the ocean.
So we're going to see the Southern Ocean.
So the Ngaitji spans from Thiele Bend up the top there, all the way down to Cape Jervis, and then across down the coastline where we are to Kingston southeast.
We are introduced to some of the traditional food, or bush tucker, as we wander through the dunes.
So this one is called your boobiella, or native juniper. So this plant here is used a lot commercially at the moment. It's really becoming a lot popular. Places like KI Spirits are using this in their gin, in their O gin or their wild gin. It's actually, the berries taste like gin. Luscious, great to grow in your garden as well, but as I said, the berries are really abundant, really great for eating, and then it's got that little gin tang to it as well. So you found some there? Yeah. The next one I wanted to show you guys was this one here. So it looks a lot like your general rosemary that you would find around the place. This one is called Coastal Illyria, or a native daisy in some parts as well. I would use it exactly the same way that you would use regular rosemary. It's a bit of a sweeter, softer aroma to it, but you can use it the exact same way. The Ngaitji of the area would use this one for ceremonies, so smoking ceremonies, and also it is a biting insect repellent. So rubbing it on your skin, the oil's in that, and the aroma is keeping away those biting insects. And then if you chuck that into your campfire, even to this day, like, you're going to create a bit of a smoke screen to the little mosquitoes that are really abundant in the area. To be able to survive here, you obviously need food, protein and fresh water. So to get fresh water, being salt water on that side and salt water on the Great Southern Ocean on this side of the peninsula, you've got a salt table just underneath the sand dunes here. So we're in the sort of bottom well of the sand dunes, which is the best place to look for water. So as it rains and filters through the sand, you're creating a freshwater lens on top of that saltwater table.
We continue on to 90 Mile Beach and the vast Southern Ocean. Next stop, Antarctica. And we're invited to join in the Pipi Shuffle.
The water's actually beautiful. Yeah. They can be super big, and then obviously...
Must be a large cuttlefish.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so now what are these?
These ones are tapeweed balls. So they're just like a seaweed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the current and the wind and the sand, they all form the balls. There's usually like some bigger ones around that are quite twiggy as well.
Yeah.
And they get, like, over time, they like sort of ground down to sort of this size, quite tight. Yeah. And then used for insulation and clothing and stuff, like chuck them in your jumper and everything. Yeah. Then in the 1800s, they were also used for explosives. Perfect to start campfires and everything like that.
Intrepid fishermen will drive the 90 miles of this treacherous beach in convoy just to be able to fish the river mouth. Back on board, Joel shares more insights as we make our way back to Goolwa.
Where we went through that walk through the dunes, it was one of the most populated areas anywhere in Australia pre-colonisation, before European settlement. And that's because of the rich diversity of food, permanent food. You didn't have to move from place to place. You could live and thrive in this beautiful landscape.
Alison makes friends with Mr. Percival, and then we leave Goolwa, making our way along the inland coast of the Coorong. Google Maps didn't tell us that this was how to get across. There are 11 chain ferries on the Murray, a unique transport system that enables travellers to cross the slow-moving river where there are no bridges. They operate 24/7 at no charge, so we grab a bite at the Wellington Hotel, great pub grub, before driving onto the ferry. and then we make our way to our Meningie motel. Next morning we head to the Jacks Point Pelican Observatory, hoping that Mr. Percival, Mr. Proud and Mr. Ponder were home. But unfortunately, the Pelican Island lay empty, but the serene shoreline that stretches to the horizon is still magical, and the rocky shore tells an ancient story with limestone structures formed by the action of microbes, wind and waves.
Pelicans will migrate all over Australia and even up into Papua New Guinea and parts of Indo as well, but the Coorong here is the only permanent breeding ground for the Australian pelicans.
So I think for me, one of the take-home messages from Stormboy was that you might not be able to make a huge difference for the environment from your own personal perspective, but you can make the difference for one animal, but that actually can then have a knock-on effect.
That's right, and I guess that's what Stormboy's about, a little young lad raising some pelican chicks, and then I guess the sentiment at the end of the movie is that the Coorong gets turned into this bird sanctuary and it all gets protected in the end, and I think that's a really important message. Everyone can make their own individual little difference, and it's a kind of a good thing that sort of echoes the Nurrunjeri. The Nurrunjeri talk about this Ngaitji system where they've all been adopted a Ngaitji or a totem, whether it's an animal, a plant or whatever, and they speak that if you protect that one little creature and its habitat and look after that, everyone else looks after their own Ngaitji. Collectively as a community, we're protecting everything, and it's kind of a good symbolic thing.
We may not have seen the pelicans, but telling their story keeps their spirit and the Coorong alive. The next morning in Murray Bridge, we have another nautical adventure planned as we join the Captain Proud paddle boat. Welcomed aboard by Captain Greg and his crew. And we make our way into the saloon, reminiscent of a grand era. Where are we?
In the Murray River.
Starting at Murray Bridge. This half-day cruise takes us both upriver and then down. Captain Craig tells the story of this grand old lady of the river.
We bought this one as a wreck and fixed it up.
So when was this built?
1977. This was built by the Proud family, who built 3 vessels, the Proud Mary first, and then 2 years later they built this one with the initial purpose to live on it, wanted the Proud family to live on it, and it was then operated as a showboat at the Port River.
The Murray River stretches 2,500 kilometres, forming the border between New South Wales and Victoria before making its way to the Murray Mouth in South Australia. And it's among the longest navigable river stretches in the world. We discuss the Taniwha and the Bunyip.
The Māori Taniwha is equivalent to the, what was the name of it?
The Bunyip. The Bunyip will get you.
Yeah.
The Bunyip.
It's like a monster that lives in the river that's eaten too much fish and it's got too big, and it'll eat the bad children.
It'll eat the naughty children or the people who take too much fish.
Yeah.
Cruising the Murray by boat is a wonderfully relaxing way to observe the people who live either on or beside the river. Especially when accompanied by a Chardonnay and a delicious lunch. What a way to travel in style. But our Fleuru weekend getaway has come to an end. We make our way back towards Adelaide, taking in more of the trademark South Australian scenery. We tested out the hybrid electric rental car, and I promise that was before we visited the Taylor's estate. You cannot drive the Adelaide Hills and the Clare Valley without a drop or two of Shiraz or a bottle to take home. We hope you have enjoyed this tour of South Australia. We hope this video inspires you to come and visit yourselves, to create your own treasured memories of the incredible wildlife, the charm of Goolwa, and the wild beauty of the Coorong. Make sure you like and subscribe for more adventures with Vet around the world. Thanks for watching. We are more than a travel channel. We volunteer for animal rescues and vet charities. We love to help pets and people as we go, trying to leave this world a better place. And if you would like to help our mission, please do comment, like, share and subscribe. Your support really helps us to help the animals.